Are we live now? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this particular event. I hope you can hear me, see me. Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate the time that you're spending today afternoon. I know it's Tuesday afternoon out here in Wokingham. It's a beautiful afternoon with nice sunshine. I hope it's the same out there in Northeast as well, which was apparently my first home when I moved here to the UK. But let me begin this particular event by a quick introduction about who we are and who this panel is, and then I'll leave the discussion to my team and Nachiket and Jackie who are also here. So if you can move to the next slide, please. All right. Okay, that seems to be some issue. Can you please try to reload the slide? Go to the slide 2. Thank you. Well, technology always takes use some moments, right? So this is no other different moment, but to understand where we are.
Or maybe Jackie, just keep that in the that mode and try to maximize that.
All right, so let's try to do whatever we have in hand with you. It's okay. Most important, it is not about seeing who we are in our pictures, but seeing the solution and what we're trying to do over here. Right. So I'll quickly take a couple of minutes before I hand it over to Jackie and Nachiket. My name is Prasad Mohare. I am one of the co-founders of LearningMate, and I manage our customer relationships here in the UK and Europe. Interestingly, when we started this, I am a son of a teacher myself at the beginning of my career, and that's what excites me about learning and teaching in the digital format. Well, I was fortunate to meet my business partners in this journey when we formed LearningMate close to 2 decades back. And it's been an amazing journey so far, and it's been uh, great to have people like Nachiket who are there today on this particular call. And talking about Nachiket, he's also one of the co-founders and my business partner, based in a beautiful town in New Jersey, close to Princeton. He heads our higher education vertical, and he's the one who conceptualized, visualized Learning with Transform as a solution and formed this particular team, which Jackie is part of. And Jackie is our Transform evangelist. She works very closely with our customers on implementation of Learning with Transform, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? And if at all, you can move to the next slide, please. Yep. Talking about like what work we've been doing in the UK. To begin with, I started this journey particularly working with University of Hull and Durham University. Before I moved here to Wokingham, I was based in Hull. I still remember those beautiful walks in the evening at Marina and the beautiful city of Hull. Uh, and coming back to our work at University of Hull, we've been working very closely with various faculties to create solutions. For example, we work with the NHS England for creating a course on dementia. We work with Center for Human Factor at University of Hull. At Durham University, we've been working very closely with the CIO team, especially around building some amazing applications around student experience, smart campus, essentially part of the digital transformation initiative at Durham University. Beyond our work we are working very closely in the sector, working on a green paper that tackles the issue of scaling learning and teaching, especially in the context of the pandemic that we are working on. The pandemic that resulted in Zoomification of education, but is that really a true way of how learning can happen? Through this green paper, what we intend to do is provide a practical guidance to the institutions of how to scale their learning and teaching ecosystem. Research paper will be currently in the draft stage and will be released in early June. Do watch out this particular event when we do a live session over here again. Now, talking about, but that's what we've been doing across the board. Here we are going to talk about transform, right? And going back to 2 decades of our experience when we started LearningMate, the belief that technology will play a critical role in learning and teaching is what started LearningMate. And that belief has been driving us every day over the last 2 decades. In the next 1 hour or so that we have with you, we're going to talk about LearningMate Transform, a practical, implementable way of tools and processes and systems that you can utilize in your day-to-day life to digitize your learning journey. But remember, we are just a phone call away. Feel free to email us, call us, and we'll be happy to work with you about the change that you're aiming for your students, for your teachers, and for the entire education community. Again, thank you so much. I'll be back again towards the end of this particular event. Of course, I am there on the stage and everywhere. So do feel free to send questions, write messages, and we'll be happy to answer. At this point, I'll like to Nachiket to come and talk about LearningMate before we jump into transform.
All right, thanks, Prasad, for the introduction. I'm Nachiket, and I head the higher education business at LearningMate. And I'll start by giving a quick overview about what LearningMate has been doing for the last 20 years and what's our core mission. Check if you move the next slide. Yeah. So today, LearningMate is one of the largest digital enablement companies in the education space. And we believe in making education engaging, effective, and equitable while leveraging technology and learning design as the key principles. We have been architecting and designing and scaling this world of what we call as modern learning for the last 20 years. And that's the experience that we bring to the table. We work with a variety of customers across the globe, spanning across publishers, higher ed institutions, course providers, MOOCs, online program management companies. The higher education landscape has been changing a lot, and we have been constantly evolving to service the needs there. Moving on to the next slide, Jackie. The LearningMate was established in the year 2001. It's close to 20 years. Today we are more than 1,300 employees, work across the globe. We have locations in US, UK, India, and Canada. And we work across variety of market segments in the education space, which goes across higher ed, K through 12, government, and corporate learning as well. And as we bring these solutions to our customers, we are cognizant of the fact that we operate in an ecosystem, and therefore over the last 20 years we have built some amazing partnerships that make our solutions very robust and interoperable. These partnerships are across learning management system companies, working with standards bodies and organizations in the higher education and learning space, and working with some of the largest MOOCs like edX and Coursera. Moving on to the next slide. Our services are spread across, as you can see, these three main areas. We cater to the entire life cycle of course or content development, starting with the creation of the content, leading to management, and then the delivery of that content. Across that life cycle, we work with variety of customers, as you can see here. Every customers have their own unique needs. We work with the customers and start at a point where they want us to start. Some customers we may work with across all of those services. But this is just a high-level overview, and happy to answer questions later on as we go in through the day. But I would like to, at this point in time, hand over to Jackie to really talk about what LearningMate Transform is, because that's the most exciting thing we are doing right now in the higher ed space.
Thank you so much, Nachiket. We're very, very glad to be here working with everyone today. Please use the chat box at any time. I'm not seeing the chat, but both Prasad and Nachiket will shout out, and we really want to make sure that this is interactive and that we're serving your needs. So please send any questions in. So I'm speaking to you today from right up the road from Hershey Park, so it's quite near from Nantucket. But I used to live in the UK. I lived, I guess, for about 4 years in London and Oxford, and I mostly for graduate school and also helping with teaching and learning in the Oxford Access Scheme. But I really, really love working with UK institutions. I greatly enjoyed in past years working with many UK librarians as part of gathering OER and reference materials. But the reason I'm at LearningMate is looking at this research. So right now I'm showing JISC research. It's quite similar to what we've helped with several studies here in the US too, Chronicle of Higher Education, Quality Matters materials. But this JISC overview is showing how we've really come to a time with our teaching and learning where we know what helps students. The challenge is that most of us try to repeat it from class to class, from program to program. And I did the same thing when I was in the classroom. So we know, like pre-coronavirus, we knew that having that online course element, even if you're in person, was greatly beneficial to teaching and learning. That's what this JISC study is really looking at, about the impact that using technology in the classroom is starting to make. Now, after coronavirus, we know that's not just nice, that it's essential. So I'm so glad to be here at LearningMate because we know we're making a difference every day, helping people plan what does their institution want to serve to your faculty, your librarians, your academic staff in order to have them help students. How can you unify around what's most crucial and bring those best practices with LearningMate's technology and those teaching and learning materials right to everyone's doorstep so you can focus on what you need to, the actual online education. And then we can help unify those learning outcomes, those core course components to bring it all together. We'll share some of these research materials at the end, as well as we do a monthly educational panel. We're just very glad to be working with everyone on these key themes. But with LearningMate Transform, just as Prasad said, it's a new subscription tool that we've been collaborating with institutions since coronavirus happened. It's taking LearningMate's technology, Frost, and bringing it together with the teaching and learning best practices that we've seen institutions throughout the world use, and helping everyone solidify around what online teaching and learning materials will help your institution. Each institution is different, but we all know we have similar needs for that, how to communicate and plan for teaching and learning. So when we work with someone to launch Transform, we form a small committee and we really bring together what your institution would need for teaching and learning. So whether we're working with somebody, in London, whether we're working with somebody in Cambridge, each institution will be slightly different. But we follow the best practices for bringing together those learning outcomes, those core online materials, and then the resource library, which I'm a little bit too obsessed with, open educational resources, which LearningMate is always a leader for. We bring those together in one tool that can be launched in about 3 to 4 weeks. Now, this is a faculty-facing tool. Your faculty, your librarians, your academic leadership will use this tool, and it helps you bring together and unify yourself outside of your learning management system. So just as if you have library databases to help bring together those resources for your students to use, this is a tool that's going to help your UK institution say, this is what's right for our students for teaching and learning. So when we get started with you, we plan that course starter kit, what format for your discussion board questions, what guidelines would work best for your institution? How do you want to show those learning outcomes? What teaching and learning materials do you want to make sure all of your faculty use? And then you can't get rid of myself and our team. We're there to support your faculty, to do trainings. That's our favorite part of working with institutions as part of Transform, is that we have ongoing training, collaborations, and research to help everybody get better together. That's why we're doing this. So Prasad and Nachiket and I really value collaborating closely with institutions for all 4 of these areas. I'm going to pause here for a second. Prasad and Nachiket, do we have any questions in chat yet? If not, feel free to send notes at any time.
Continue. There are no questions.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, for these partnership areas, they look different for each institution. So for somebody like the University of Phoenix, they had a whole committee working with us for those learning outcomes component, how to customize and manage, their learning outcomes to bring it together, to have all their different committees. But this week I'm working with a smaller institution that's next to me here in the U.S. That institution, Salem, has they have, rather than a big committee, they nominated 2 of their academic leaders to collaborate with us to bring together all of their learning outcomes. So whether it's a big group or a small group, we know that everything's focused around what those outcomes are. So it's an honor to be able to work with you to say, here's our institution level goals. Here's what our program goals are and the course goals. And as part of that, we plan how to bring those learning outcomes to your students. So we plan them together here in our tool using LearningMate Tech Transforms technology. And then we put them in your LMS with you to make sure they're nice and clean and ready for your students to use, because everything's based around that learning. And the course starter kit, at the beginning of coronavirus, everyone scrambled. Just like Prasad said, it was a lot of Zoom meetings, which people cared about. They knew everybody was trying, but it's time to have those online classes. Most of our partners want to go to an asynchronous format with synchronous components. So that means we can help you make really strong interactives for student practice. Beautiful animation videos, if that's part of your key. Many of our partners use those to introduce key programs and courses. I really believe in a getting started communication plan. How do we plan out what core components will be consistent in your LMS and then in Transform, so that all of your faculty or adjunct faculty can understand, whether I'm teaching History 100 today or History 200 tomorrow, it's going to have that same format. If you have to hire someone to help with Biology 101 tomorrow, you would have that class already due to that consistent framework and format. We also make materials that you can plan with your faculty outside of your LMS too. The Learning Resource Library, LearningMate has a strong collection of open educational resources, and we can also incorporate your publisher resources. And what makes this the most valuable is how it aligns back to those learning outcomes. So every resource that we have in your Transform library is tagged according to, many of our institutions would like to incorporate skills, but also those learning outcomes. And then that faculty and training support. For everyone, we have monthly panels, we have community discussions, and then we have a bank of service hours, so that as part of your collaboration with us throughout these core areas, we're always here to help you. So this is a tool that really will unite your institution to collaborate around what we need for teaching and learning. Okay. Now, as part of that Transform team, we have a very diverse group based in the UK, US, India that collaborates with your academic team in order to help with your needs. So right now, for one of our partners, we're making a series of interactives around their new workforce skills development. So for that, we have a mixture of our team members from the US and India collaborating, and then we're releasing those materials next week, which will then be used in June. So most of our partners who are using Transform now are preparing for summer and fall courses. When Prasad and I were planning, we said that if anybody from the UK would like to subscribe, we could collaborate with you closely throughout the next few weeks and make sure that any courses in the late summer or fall could all be ready. But for your tool, we would customize your landing page, import those learning outcomes so that they can be shared openly. Most of our institutions have spreadsheets, and they want to get rid of those and help everybody, communicate together. What are we doing for our UK students together? Okay, that those core starter kit materials will be here in the tool as well. so that you can communicate openly throughout your institution. This is why we have the rubrics that we have. Most of our institutions work with us to follow the Quality Matters key recommendations, to have one rubric for discussion boards, one for written assignments, and one for other assignments. So overall, we have at least those 3 rubrics, and then our resource library. And this comes with your tool, where we have that nice bank to get started with, and then we can incorporate any other materials you have as well. But jump in the chat with any questions. But we're really proud that we get to work with our partners for an ongoing basis, for those rubrics, for the guidelines, for the faculty training materials, for these interactives for student practice. And right here is showing how our tool brings it all together. So this is one program, computer science. And all together here on that first tab, we have the overview, the learning outcomes, and this is one course, Fundamentals of Computation, and resources that this institution has gathered together for that. So when you're navigating throughout Transform, it's bringing everything all into one spot. You can say, we're gathering and unifying our teaching and learning in one place to make sure we're bringing the students what they really need. And then on the other side, no matter what your LMS is, Nachikit, Prasad, and I are here to work with your teams to make sure that these same materials are mirrored over in your LMS. This document right here, the course development template, mirrors whatever we create in your LMS. So for each of our institutional partners, it's a little bit different. For this institution, it's starting with, we made them a handout that they wanted their students to be able to download and save. So for them, they start with this handout, and then it goes through those core course materials. But we know that having that, that common structure that everyone feels comfortable with, that whether it's a physics class or an English class, everyone knows whether it's a module-based structure, a weekly-based structure. A few people have even branched out and had several different templates. For one of our partners, they did a nursing education template and then a general education template. But unifying around what you're doing and why will allow you to keep everyone on the same page. Any questions yet, Prasad?
Not really. It's more in terms of Sophie's question. Is this a subscription portal?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. Yes. So, how will Transform, enhance the faculty's experience? Exactly what Prasad said. It's a subscription service. So it's a yearly subscription. Nachikit, please jump into, I know you love talking about it. And that, with that subscription service, we help with all these materials. And then you get that bank of service hours along with that subscription service. Nachikit, would you want to add anything else to that question?
Yes, I just replied on the chat as well. In addition to the yearly subscription, you can increase your bank of service hours by paying as you need. So the service hours can be added as you need them.
Wonderful. Yeah. And the goal is to give that long-term security and unify your institution so that everybody knows what they're doing and why. This last year was hard for everyone. We're very proud at LearningMate that we're doing a current survey, just like Prasad said, with student learners, with faculty learners, and we've been having these monthly panels where we're all focusing on how can we improve that student learning experience. All of us have not done well enough. Now we're smarter. So with LearningMate's technology and our very, we have a very talented team. We have the graphic artists. We have people who are very strong at creating those supplemental learning materials. My colleagues are so much better than I am with any LMS. I focus on helping the faculty and librarians to unify around what they're doing and why. But together, we're very, very proud that we can, really help with this subscription service. And just like Nachikit said, those service hours to make that long-term, difference at your institution. That flexibility, that focus on the why, the learning that Prasad speaks so well about, unifying those course materials and resources, and that ongoing support. you know that we're here. Like last night at 10 p.m., one faculty member went in to teach a course for the first time. She was filling in for somebody else who got the vaccine and wasn't feeling well. And she called us because she knew that we were there to help get her course set up. So they know that, we're there to help in that ongoing fashion. Okay, now I was going to go to a few case studies, but do we have any other questions like that great one?
There's a question, Jackie, from Ellie. Is it possible to design the platform to fit in with university branding? And yes, so the platform can get the university's branding. That's what we do in the initial setup. With your logo, even the templates can be customized and branded for your needs. So yeah, absolutely yes.
100%. And small, relatively small things. It doesn't take that long, but we want to mirror your language. The way you talk about your institutions is part of that. Overall, probably about a 3-week setup period. But your logo, your language, the way you talk about your learning outcomes. We want to make sure that your faculty, librarian, staff are comfortable with using the tool. So we'll mirror, how you talk about those materials. Update those core starter materials, and then we'll help you to link to your tool and email it out to your community as well. Most of our partners have it on their website, within their LMS, and on any key academic collaboration areas. Did that help, Nachiket?
Yes, and there's another question. I believe education will be like this in future, now that we have adapted because of the pandemic. That's a great question, Ellie, and we get that every time when we are talking about some of these approaches. See, post-pandemic, we do believe things will go back to normal. People will go back to campus. But I think what the pandemic has created is a scenario where every university today wants to create that kind of a flexibility and adaptability as a long-term sustainable solution.
Yes.
You don't want to be scrambling, next time something like this happens. And I think that flexibility has to be now, improved by making the courses more engaging and more effective. So this is like going beyond the Zoom sessions. That's not what online education is, and therefore we stress a lot on making it more effective and holistic through this approach. But long term, we do see this going on.
100%. And let me know if this helps, or please keep asking questions. But for example, with North Central University, before we started to work with them, each individual faculty tried to make their own videos. So some of them were quite good and others were quite bad. So what we did with them was we said, boy, how about if we make introduction animation videos that don't show faculty, but that are universal with what they show about the institution. So the last part of them always talks about your library and your student support services. And then the first part isn't, it isn't based on one instructor, it's general. And it's just there to motivate. So that if you have a faculty member who goes on leave or who leaves your institution, you can still use it. Now, we still involve the faculty in making videos for other parts of the course, but the core supplemental materials were not based on one faculty member, because we all know things can change. So, this is something, to be honest, that, this university should have done before the pandemic, but they didn't, But then with the pandemic challenges, it caused them to say, boy, how can we do this a little bit smarter and better together? So for all of our partners, rather than reinventing the wheel for each course and each program, how can we collaborate and say what's the best for our students? How can we be smarter with how we work together for those learning outcomes, those core course materials, and how can we effectively provide engaging courses for those students? Did that help, Nachiket? Did that help the person who was asking the question?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, so there's a question: how do students learn practical skills if it's online? Jackie, you want to answer that?
Oh, I like that question. I'm going to show a few quick case studies to plan that. So to be honest, that's how I felt when I was in the classroom. I knew that looking at students face to face, I knew what they understood and what they didn't. Okay. But when you work online, it allows us to reach more students in a wider body. So what we ended up doing, and I'll show two different case studies to help with that, but we know that online learning or hybrid learning, when it's a mix of both, gives our student learners more flexibility. So I have two kids running around the house who are currently home because somebody in their class has coronavirus, and whether they're in person or in school, in person or online, we keep track of what they're learning very clearly. So with this institution, we made a map, and we were very clear about what they were learning and what activities would help them with that. Okay, and then each week in the class, we would follow the same format to telling them, this is what your learning outcomes are for this week, and here are the 3 things you will do to help practice those learning outcomes. So when you bring it all together for your students, it greatly helps. Now, there's one more thing that I love. I'm going to flip forward once more. This is an example here of an interactive, okay? I love LearningMate's interactives. This is one of the main reasons I'm here. These interactive frameworks by our talented team, follow best practices because we introduce what subject they're learning, with a key slide, and then we allow for about 5-10 minutes of sharing content, and then we practice. So whether it's like for this one here, for this nursing leadership, they're practicing like sonograms and different materials where we're showing visualizations and then we're asking them questions about it. But these interactives for key practice, or the different discussion boards and core course materials, like for this nursing course, we also had a pathway in the LMS that would start with your clinical experience for this week will be X. And sometimes it would be going somewhere in person, but many times it'd be watching a video and thinking about that case study. So taking students through that pathway of what am I doing and why? What skills am I building throughout this material? We try to be very specific as we build these pathways with you. Did that help, Nachiket?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions coming in?
Jackie, you do have a few questions in the stage panel. You have Sophie asking how tutors assess students' practical work. If you could answer that one.
Sure. And what I think you said, Joe, was about practical work. Is that right?
That's coming. How do tutors assess students' practical work?
Oh, assessing work. Perfect. So right now I flipped to another slide. I'm sorry, I'm changing around so much, Joe. But here, see, for this partner, we help them write and define their courses for computer science. So we made very specific list for the students about what they were practicing and how it ties to the program outcomes. And then we paired it with training for instructors. So for this partner, it was a hybrid course that they were aiming for. So they practiced their materials we gave them a package of, here's something that you're going to have to program and do based on these learning outcomes. So we started with the learning outcomes, gave them an assignment that they would work on, and then they had live sessions with their instructor to answer questions. So we helped both the students and the instructor, and it was that mixture of what was online and what was in those collaborative sessions. Let me show you another example. For this institution, this is right down the road from me, we help them practice in a different way, okay? Each student would have a mentorship program with the faculty, and we'd set them up for the project by saying, step 1, you're going to be thinking about entrepreneurship. So you need to read these articles and think about, what do you want to do your plan for, your entrepreneurship plan. Step 2, we had them practice those skills. What would you need to do if you were to start a business? And they wrote out plans, and then we paired them up with somebody in the local community to help review it. Now, this was not synchronous. This was done in like a 3-step process, and then we had that community member give them feedback. But for this practice, it was very, very beneficial. And then some of those students who made those plans actually got to implement them with their business partners, the top 3. So whether it's something of practicing computer science skills or going through those steps to really help practice, how a business course could be done, we love figuring out how can students really follow these successful materials. No matter what we do, Joe, we think that, just like we were showing with Transform, everything we do needs to be tied back to those learning outcomes and then tied into that why. How will this help me with my future career? And, with using Transform to help organize and then setting up the pathway with those practical materials like the interactives in your LMS, it's not up to one faculty member to do it because it's too much, okay? When I was a faculty member teaching, I thought I could do it all, and I couldn't. I fell asleep at my laptop every night. Okay, but when you bring your institution together and say, what do we want to be the same? Those interactives, that discussion board format, that faculty training guide, then it's less pressure on each individual person, and you can follow the research just like the GIST study for what's working and what's not. Did that help, Joe?
Thank you, Jackie. That was a question that came in from a lady called Sophie on the chat panels.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you for that one.
Other questions or comments? Is there anything else? Well, I know we wanted to pause for a minute and see what else everybody was thinking. And then we have Prasad was going to do his summary, and we were going to share a little bit more about our education panels. But please let us know. What else are you thinking about? We really feel that with coronavirus exacerbated the challenges we had, but it's made us smarter together. So by using LearningMate's technology and pairing it with our very dedicated services team, we're ready to help UK institutions. We're very excited. I like working with Prasad because we have people in the UK office, in the US office, and our India office who are ready to partner with anyone. And right now we're doing that UK focused study, and we're excited for more partners. Right, Prasad?
Absolutely. The study is, I just gave a glimpse of the particular study at the beginning of this particular meeting. But it's a research which gives practical guidance of how to go ahead about hybrid, online, blended, whichever format of learning and teaching that you want to execute at your institution. Okay.
But what questions, is there anything else you're thinking about? Because we could gladly share case studies and other materials after this meeting as well. We're eager to work with you.
I think that's all your questions done for now. If any more come through, I'll unmute and let you know, but you've had some fantastic questions in there. If anybody's question in the panel hasn't been answered, if you want to just please copy and paste it back in case we've missed it, because there has been quite a lot of activity going in there, and we can get it answered. But I think for now you're okay, Jackie, so I'll mute myself and let Prasad do his last piece.
And I'm going to add one more little area in here, just that, if anybody wants to be part of our monthly educational panels, please just send a note to this Transform Education at LearningMate. We have, like, this month's panel is both, it's in honor of National Nursing Month. So we have National Geographic, the NIH, as well as Elsevier joining us to share free open educational high quality resources that would be best for undergraduate students. They will also cover general medical subjects, but each month we've been having one of these educational panels. We love doing it. There's no cost. So if anybody would like to join us for this month or any of our future months, so far, Nachiket, would you want to share anything else about how the panels have gone so far?
Sure. I think these are panels where we collaborate with industry practitioners, academicians, and bring out the best of online education to our customers and extended partners. So yeah, Jackie kind of spearheads that every month. Every month is an interesting topic. It's all about addressing challenges that we as a community are facing when it comes to making learning more effective.
Thank you so much. So anybody's welcome to come. I mean, we would love for all of you to be subscribers, but you don't need to subscribe to Transform to come to these. They're open and free. So, please just join. But
Jackie,
Prasad?
there's a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
Jackie, there's a question from Sophie again.
Oh,
I'll
sure.
read out the question. How do students learn practical skills if it's online, please?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, Sophie, I'm gonna zoom backwards, okay? Okay, I'm sorry I'm going through slides. But like for this institution, like Salem University, Sophie, they are very, very focused on skills. Now, not all of our institutions are, but I love it when an institution wants to focus on skills, okay? So for this university, before coronavirus, they were fully focused in person, and then they had to go all online. So, for this institution, like for their nurses, Sophie, okay, for every single course, they're saying, what skills am I practicing here that's going to help me be successful? So when the student goes into their LMS, this university uses Blackboard. They first have this getting started section where they get to read about what they're doing and why. Okay. And then each week, like the LMS, we help our institutions have a specific pathway, Sophie, where we say, getting started, this is why you're in this course. This is why it gets very important. Like for week one, like for example, for their English courses, for English 100, we worked with their main faculty. Her name was Jessie. Okay. And for Jessie, for English 101, we said, in this course, we know you're nursing students, but you're going to be practicing basic English skills that will help you finish your nursing degree and will help you with any research studies that you need to work on in the future. So we tell them, here's your weekly goals. And then we have a section, Sophie, that says, first step is you're going to listen to this short video from Jessie, from the faculty member, and they'd watch that video. But then after they watched that video, they practiced. So this was English 101 for nursing students. So in that next segment down, we would take them right through this. It would be the same pathway each week. So they'd watch that video about English skills, and then they practiced it. So that week one, the first discussion post, they practiced writing an intro about themselves, following the skills that Jessie just introduced. And each of the students critiqued each other. So they did that short writing post, and they each gave each other feedback. And then at the end of that week, they turned in an assignment. Okay. So this time, rather than the students offering each other feedback, the faculty member, Jessie, graded each of their papers. So in that pathway, their active practice where they watched the video, but then they practiced with those discussion board posts and they practiced with the assignment. Okay. Now, no matter what, another wonderful professor here, is Dr. Soma for biology. So for his, we would use a lot of interactives. Okay. And then he would do some multiple choice quizzes. Okay. But then have the students, make a presentation and present as part of the online class about what they were learning about the biology key fundamentals. Okay. So for each course, we kind of have to think, what skills am I teaching? And is it an interactive? Is it a video? Is it an assignment? Most of our partners do a little bit of each. That mixture of key discussion questions with student practice materials was something that the faculty member can grade. But by having nice visuals, Sophie, that takes the students through it in the LMS and having that same pathway for all their courses, like what they do for that biology class is different than the English class, but the structure within their learning management system is the same. But you can't just say, boy, let's do multiple choice questions for all, because for some, that's not going to be appropriate. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to brainstorm and plan, and I love it. So we can think about what would best help your students practice those skills. Does that help, Prasad?
Absolutely. I think so. There's one question I think which came up by Jonathan earlier, and it's being answered by Ellie. And probably Nachiket, this is more of a question from students. So the question is, can you tell me if this help universities attract more students?
Yeah.
And is there any data on this?
So
Oh,
yeah, I tried answering that in the chat, Prasad. See what this solution does is helps university create that flex instructional models to cater to both on and off campus students. So if you didn't have that flexibility, you might lose some students who want that flexibility. And therefore, in a ways, it does help you retain students or get more students. But as the solution has been launched a year back, we are still collecting data in terms of what's the impact on enrollment. While we are still collecting that data, we have very interesting data on how it has improved grades for
yes.
students, and Jackie can probably talk about that.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Nachika. Both improving grades as well as retaining students. We still have so much more we want to do. And for anybody on this call who would like to help with our studies, please let us know. But we did an OLC presentation probably about 3 months back. And as part of that, we did some analysis about what students were being retained within their institution. And it significantly helped. So we know that when we just looked at general courses versus courses that were using the new transform framework, with the same student body, more students were successfully finishing the course and not leaving the institution, as well as their grades were improving. Now, it was to be honest, I can share the study afterwards. I don't have it in front of me, but it helped with several percentage points, but it was still under 5. So we still all of our institutions have high goals. So it made a difference. It was definitely systematic and throughout the university that they could see it, not just to one subject. But we still have a lot more to do.
Yeah.
There's another question, Natika. Do you want to take that up, please?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a question on could this be used for adult further education, upskilling, or just university courses? So again, a very interesting question. And what we are seeing today is universities creating courses and programs, not just for the traditional students, but also for adult learners, especially people who are working and want to come back to college for either upskilling or reskilling, and complete their degrees. And one of the basic foundations of this solution is how you create your courses aligned to the outcomes. And it is not just learning outcomes, but skills and competencies. So that very strong alignment is what is enabling us to create courses which can cater to variety of students, the traditional students, the non-traditional students, people who are looking for specific workforce skills and competencies. So yes, the solution and our frameworks, cater to all those requirements as well.
I couldn't agree more. And this example that we have up on the screen, that Skilled Casey, was that non-traditional focus. They were upskilling workers who wanted to move into that technology industry. Thank you so much, Nachiket. Any other? These questions are so good. Do we have anything else coming in?
No, I think no. Those are the questions so far.
Okay. Then Prasad, I'm going to go to your closing thought slide, please.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Nachiket. Thank you, everyone who is participating today. Thank you for wonderful questions. I mean, that's the fun of these kind of events. It's very interactive, live, and we love these kind of sessions. And as Jackie mentioned, it's our endeavor to work with the sector, and the initiative that Jackie and Nachiket started, we want to roll it out in the UK as well. We look for participations from the community. It's been a hard year for all of us in the sector across the world. So it's not just education, but across the world, various sectors have gone through difficult changes, especially for the teachers who have been digitally challenged. The digital skills literacy is at a big risk for implementation and rollout. Yes, we understand that in a couple of months, probably a year or a little more than a year, we will be kind of back to normal where we were before this pandemic hit us. But let's have plan B ready. For whatever reason, if we have anything that comes up in the near future where we have to go back to online or remote learning, where are we standing? Thank you so much for joining in today. Really appreciate the participation. Thank you so much, Tech Week Humber. It's for me, it's like coming home, coming back to where I started my journey in the UK, working very closely with University of Hull colleagues, and being part of Hull as a region. Thoroughly enjoyed, as I said, missing my walks on Marina. Looking forward towards having more discussions and interactions with group up north part of the country. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all.